Alrighty, chat room. All right, guys, what's up? It's time for yet another tier list. This time with the Slayer patch. There hasn't been massive balance updates yet. That has been announced to be coming in about 2 weeks after Evo. However, it's only going to be system changes and buffing bad characters that haven't had the chance to shine yet. What does that mean? No one knows. However, 3.5, the one with the buffed white wall assault and kind of ruined the game, was also considered to be a minor patch. So, hopefully, they really nerf white wall assault and a bunch of these mechanics that we're going to go through today. I'm really disappointed that it took them 7 months to do what essentially is a hotfix patch. And I don't know. Then they're adding another big patch only 2 or 3 months after in October/November, uh, which is just makes no sense whatsoever. And then they're also gonna have only two tournaments, Talk and Frosty, be on the last latest patch before season 4 finals or season 3 finals. Sorry, Arc Rio finals that we're all qualifying for actually happens. So almost everyone will be, not used to the new patch. Most people, like probably 90% of the people qualified, will have qualified on a previous patch or got on the majority of their points on a previous patch. We might have people that qualify using a super broken character now and then just don't know how to play when their character isn't broken anymore. There might be like 4 Goldlewis players just in spectator mode, but qualified, Anyway, yeah. Complaints about the patch schedule aside. No. One more. They said they would patch more often this season. They said they would add 3v3 mode. They said they would add all the new special moves. There's no new special moves coming in the next patch. There's no 3v3 mode. This is the least they've ever patched. Every competitive player is basically just screaming, why do you not patch this game faster? Why do you not help us? Why do you lie? Why do you say that you're going to patch the game and not patch? It's been rough. It's been easily the worst stretch of Strive so far. I would say they had a lot of really good patches whenever it was from where it came out. I think it came out in pretty rough shape. And then since then, there was like good patch, good patch, good patch, good patch, good patch. And a lot of the patches that came before were net good patches where they would introduce 1 or 2 really stupid things, such as like nerfing Happy Chaos zoning, but then introducing K counter hits, which had a lot of problems. And when 3.0 came out, which is the patch with White Wall Assault, all the Wild Assaults actually, and then 3.5, which further screwed things up, they were really big net bad patches. And what's worse is that they kind of ruined some of the good done by all the previous patches by homogenizing the game a lot. And Wild Assault, removes every weakness from a character that has like been made to have a weakness. For example, DPRC was a really good option, and now it's just like completely broken because you have Red Wild Assault to couple with it. A lot of these things just like really, really are starting to wear people down. Game is still in a really good spot if you're not a competitive player, honestly. And I do recommend that if you're on the edge, you can definitely check it out. It's free on Game Pass. It's almost always like half off or whatever. And the patch is coming soon in another season. But it really, really sucks that they kind of just made this patch horrible. And then they don't fix it for 7 months because, things have to play out. But like, maybe that was true when people like had 2 majors a year and no one could play online. But with modern technology, like frame data viewers, tons of people labbing, like sprinting matchups stuff, I feel like a lot of the time we know what needs fixing. Maybe we don't know the exact positions of a character in a tier list, which we'll talk about later, or characters I've changed my opinion on throughout this 7-month patch. But we generally know, oh, this is really dumb. Oh, this is really stupid. Yeah, Wild Assault should not be like this. Like we should have known that before the patch came out, honestly. But especially like a week, a month out. All right, so Slayer is the first new character. I mean the latest new character. We also got more time now with Abba, so we'll talk a bit more about them. First off, though, I'm here wearing my funeral attire. Zato is the only character that I would consider low tier in this game. It is just baffling that he's been left in this state for this long. Like I at this point I'm starting to think that they like it's like lore reasons, like, oh, he's dead in game, so he should be dead on the tier list. He shouldn't be picked. A character that's never even been like had an argument for being the best character in the game was nerfed harder than like the next 3 characters combined in one patch. I have no idea how bad the balancing team must be at understanding Zato, at understanding anything, for them not to just nerf him this hard, but then to not significantly buff him in any of the patches, not give him a new special move. Yeah, it's just a complete, like, I really like Arxis. I've met a lot of the people, a lot of the like higher ups too. They're really nice people. Their balancing team needs help, and they need to listen more to the community. What happened with Zato is a complete and utter display of failure. Nothing less. Like, it is a complete embarrassment that you nerf a character that was so well loved. He was one of the top tiers that people liked fighting the most, or high tiers even, depending on the patch. And they just fucked him over, you know. I could go on for hours and hours about how fucked up he is. And yes, while he is one of the characters that could be receiving of a buff now in the patch in 2 weeks, honestly, without giving him a new special move and reverting like the changes, and then also giving him extra changes to use the new mechanics better and play the new meta, I don't see how he even becomes like high tier, let alone top tier or like one of the best. Yeah, who knows? All right, let's do B tier. So B tier is mid tier, okay? Mid tier. This is not a bad character. No character in mid tier is actually bad, and it's really fucking hard to rank who is in this tier, okay? I want you guys to understand that if you play a mid tier in this game and you're not winning shit, like if you're not competing to place top 8s, and you're not a person who has previously won or in the contention of currently winning a major, these characters are completely fine. Maybe if we like go super far into the future and we like raise kids to play Strive and like we play this patch forever, maybe then, yeah, sure, it matters. But as it is right now, you don't really have an excuse to do badly with these characters, because even though they're theoretically worse, no one knows how to play against these characters, which is a really, really important thing in this game. A matchup on a good character can often be easier to play against than a like bottom 5 character which you don't know how to fight. So I think I'm not gonna really like care too much about the order. I think there's a couple character. Johnny is definitely not like contender for the worst or second worst. Sawdust not even in the game, so we'll just say worst. I think Baiken is a character that a lot of people overrate. I'm not completely sure about the character strength, but I do think that Baiken just kind of uses the new mechanics meh. But she does have some decent risk reward, like pretty high health with guts, and has a really good defensive bottom and parry and 4-frame mash. But bad movement and subpar conversions really hurt. That said, though, a lot of the top tiers aren't like super comfortable fighting her, like Leo, Soul, even like Sin. You know, once they're on offense, they're not super comfortable because Baiken's risk reward on offense is pretty good. And since they don't dominate neutral versus her, it's not too free. But yeah, she does definitely suffer, especially like if you look at the entire cast and not just like one or two character. at the very top. Probably, I'm probably in the minority of this opinion though. A lot of people seem to think that she's stronger. Um, Next up, we have. I don't even know, man. It's real hard to rank these characters. Um, I think Testament, Johnny, and yeah, I think Testament and Elphelt are the two next. Both these characters are not actually bad. I would probably put Elphelt higher because she's just like so easy to snowball with. Um, yeah, it's. I would say Testament is mostly just power level diff. Like they do everything fine. They actually use Orange Wild Cell super fucking well, but it's one of these things where, despite doing that, they are just slightly less scary. And I think if you're looking at like this perfect version of the meta, especially, a lot of their shit just has like actual flaws. Um, and like kind of don't have a lot of insane strengths. Like, yeah, they have great normals, but like so does Ram, and Ram has a fuck ton of other shit. Um, I don't even know if I want to put another character here. I think Axel. I think Axel's actually down here. Axel's like one of these characters where I think if you have Axel and then another character to cover up his bad matchups, so just like Ram Chipp, he's actually like high A maybe. Like I think he's a really good counter meta pick, but he does have a bunch of really rough matchups, some of which are very good. Um, and he's just like less explosive. Like his win con is being good at far range, but a lot of characters are just too good at closing the gap and skipping neutral now with a lot of meter. And he's probably one of the biggest uh, characters that really suffer from having a lot of really bad, like, sorry, how to say this? He really suffers from the fact that while assault is in the game, like people being able to hit him on block or in neutral, and then just convert into either a block string or a hit with wild assault. Wild assault can skip through like his poking, and then once he's wall broken, he doesn't go back to neutral. He goes into more Oki, regardless of the hit. So that's probably his biggest weakness right now. And even just making wild assault more costly would be a really big help. Next up we have Johnny. I think some people think Johnny's a contender for the worst. I think that's giga cap personally. Does he have some flaws? Sure. In some matchups, his normals are like a little bit underwhelming for what type of character he's supposed to be. But this whole thing that people act as if you can just dash block into Johnny is just like, it's just gaslight. Nothing less. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna dash block into a character with normals that end him in -4 if he does misfighting cancel. He has End Sega that gives full combo on normal hit. He has Vault. He can throw up a card if you're not looking. He can like misfind or dash away. He has Orange Wild Assault. Like, dude, dash blocking against this character is like something you have to do. It's not a win condition. Yes, if you're right, always on defense, sure. But like, I really, really disagree with how people view this character. Maybe in Fantasyland where people like never ever get hit by dash up throw, sure. But like realistically, no. This character is like super fucking scary. Vault PRC is one of the most cancers, like ignorant shit you could ever do. Next character is Bedman. I also don't think Bedman's bad. I think Bedman is probably the most slept on character for a lot of people. I see some people put them at like bottom 2. I think Bedman is really fucking good in a lot of ways. They have some flaws in that like their normals aren't amazing and they're pretty big and bulky. But I actually think their offense is super, super underrated and like completely meme worthy levels of like offense if you don't have a DP. And even if you have a DP, they're now a lot better with it because they have better mix. But if you don't have a DP, you actually just sit and block forever. And they can get that offense from round start using White Wall Assault. Bro, this had slept off. I didn't even think about that. Oh, okay. All right. I think that's it for mid tier. Next up is probably going to be really controversial, but let me explain, okay? I'll put ABBA here. Now, I think ABBA with a secondary is maybe here, S minus. But I think solo ABBA is around the lower part of A tier. A lot of people might not agree with this, but I think that for a tournament, it is not how good you are at scamming wins, because at the end of the day, you have to play so many people worse than you if you're gonna place top, at a top tier, tournament. Like, you're gonna have to play a lot of people, and having a random chance of losing to anyone because you didn't get, your shit started while playing the worst character in the game in normal mode ABBA, it's just too big of a deal. They are a character that are among the easiest to rob anyone with. Like, you can take a game super fucking easily against anyone with ABBA. I actually even think that ABBA has some of the better matchups in the entire game versus like some of the top tiers, especially DP characters like Soul, Leo, Chipp. I think ABBA does really well versus them, but as a solo main, I don't think they're too good. Like, I think ABBA is fine solo, but you do have to like actually deal with a lot of shit versus some characters like May. Sin is annoying. I would say HC, Bridget, Asuka. I think Asuka's probably the worst one. And then even versus other characters such as like Anji, like, yeah, you can win against Anji, but like Anji can also just spin you while you're in jealousy rage, and then one hit means that, oh, your jealousy rage was for nothing. Personally, I still have a pocket ABBA, and I'll bring her out occasionally. I think that's mostly though because she's really good in certain matchups. Like, she covers some of my bad matchups pretty well, and that people don't know how to play against her because she forces a playstyle that is really hard to implement for most Stripe players, which is chill out, run away, which is, Stripe just kind of incentivizes everyone to just run in an unga bunga, just int the entire time, run it down mid. But yeah, solo main, I don't think I'd, maybe I wouldn't put her here completely. I would say she's probably not the bottom of A tier, but she's close. For bottom, I think I would put Geo. I think Geo, while in theory working really well with a lot of this, is that her issue is that both Geo and Chipp essentially have this thing of we win neutral. We don't have the best offense. We don't have the best defense. Well, Chipp has like really good options but low health. However, we win neutral. You can only really hit Geo and Chipp with like 2Ks, 6Ps, 5Ks. Anything else is really hard to do in neutral. The problem with this patch is that, one, she lost some of her old Oki. And then two, she's Guard Crush focused now. The Guard Crush is fucked up, super brain dead, horrible design. It's like Street Fighter levels of strike throw, or no, actually worse, but yeah. However, if you play that versus a DP character, and now she's suddenly much, much worse because she can't enforce the Guard Crush from nearly as many situations. And in general, because of Wild Assault being so overtuned, and you always have a meter, even though you can only hit Chipp and Geo with 2K, you can just do 2K, 2D, Wild Assault, break the wall, etc. Like, the playstyle just doesn't really match up that well. And that is one of like the big issues in my opinion. Um, Next up we will have Potemkin. I don't think Potemkin is like the best character of all time, but he is definitely one of the characters with the most raw potential, maybe top one. Like the wall super is one of the most cancerous degenerate things of all time. It's just like, oh, I not only win neutral, but you have to block a high low and then Garuda Guard Crush Oki with the best Guard Crush Oki in the game. My weakness, oh, I used to have bad anti-airs. No longer the case. His 6P has insane reward now. And I used to have bad mash. No longer the case. He has a 5 frame into hard knockdown. That also safe jabs. And oh, I have trouble getting in. White wall assault, hammerfall, like hammerfall with meter. Yeah, I don't really think a lot of the good characters can really beat this character nearly as consistently as you would want against a character like Pot. Like, I think he does well into Soul. I think he, struggles a bit versus Leia, but still does fine. I think he does fine into Nago. People always act as if Goldlewis Pot is some fucking impossible matchup, and I do not agree at all. We see it won all the time, even at top level, even for people that play it all the time. Does it look horrible when you lose it? Yeah. Does that mean a matchup is horrible? No. Yeah, I just think Pot is like surprisingly solid and with a lot of explosive shit. Hopefully he will be nerfed to the ground in the next patch, but I have a fear that they're gonna like nerf Watt Wallace slightly, but it still is really fucking good. Because that's what happened last patch, right? Like with 3.0, it wasn't the best one because red was, but it was still insanely broken, and then they buffed it for no reason. I think they'll slightly nerf White Wall Assault, and then they're gonna like as compensation just like super buff Plot. Yeah, really just like how good Pod is right now. That type of character design just should not be good at top level, because when it is good at top level, it's just so awful to fight at every other level. Next up, I will have Eno. I think Eno is pretty good. Definitely no real big flaws. Just consistency issues, kind of like Abba. But her biggest issue, this one, is that she suffers a little bit more from wall assault and positive bonus because she now gets wall break from everything. But since her offense isn't super safe inherently, especially versus DP characters, the fact that she can't just like break the wall and then get all of that burst back like you could in 3.5 is a really, really big deal. And obviously you can burst some of her wild assault combos now, which you could not before. Before you get hit by 2k and then the rest was burst safe. Struggles a little bit versus some of the top tiers. Has some weird matches versus non-top tiers like Axel, etc. But overall, still a really good character. Still super scary. Just like literally just consistency issues, really, other than anything. But you can rob anyone with There's no one that beats this character like super confidently. Next up, we have another robbery character. See, this is kind of the theme of this patch. There's just like a ton of robbery characters. Slayer. Slayer's the newest character. To give some context, I played Slayer for a little bit. I considered maining Slayer or at least secondary Slayer. However, I pretty quickly realized that while this character is super explosive, insane robbery level, like maybe one of the biggest upset / robbery characters of all time, I just don't think he's solid enough, and I don't think he actually does anything uniquely well except slightly higher damage than the top tiers. But the real big issue that I always came to was, sure, Slayer does like 80% from a hit, but he can't dash block. He can't move. He has the worst backdash in the game, because when he backdashes, even though it looks like he teleports, his hitbox is still there until like way after his invisibility ends, which creates a ton of problems with a lot of characters, right? And so, why can Slayer not dash block? Why can Slayer not move? because, oh, I can do 80%. When Soul, Mei, Goldlewis, Nago, Leo, these characters all do insane damage, but they can move. They can dash. They have great movement. They have fucking Bandit Bringer. They have everything. They wild assault. Like, why can these characters do that? In general, also, like, Slayer having blue wild assault and not being able to do anything crazy with it, it's a really big downgrade for a character of a robbery class, right? If you play robbery, you really want red, you really want white, because it either makes one, all your combos better, or two, it makes you skip neutral. And Slayer unfortunately has some of the worst neutral, at least consistent neutral. Some matchups he just dominates neutral. Like versus, for example, like Asuka, HC, he does really well. He does good against any setup character in general, like Jacko as well. If you need to set shit up, then it's going to be really rough because he can just K-map up from anywhere and either start his pressure or just do like 50% if you got counter hit. Now, his trouble really comes out with the characters that are down to scrap with him, but can also use things such as, like, you know, actual consistent options in neutral. So we're talking about like Mei, Goldlewis, Nago, they can scrap. And then Soul, Leo, Sin, Kai, they all have like insane DPs that really makes his offense a ton worse. But yeah, I could be wrong. Like, I was one of the top ranked Slayers and I have done well with this character, but I'm generally pretty correct on characters that I put time in. Obviously, people are going to fucking debate this and be like, oh, you said that Pokemon Trainer was not the best character in 2018, and then they weren't the best character, but they were 2 placements lower than what I thought. Yeah. Anyway, I think Slayer is pretty good, has some bad matchups. Hopefully he doesn't get any better, because if he gets any better, he's already super cancer to play against. But if he gets any better at all, he's just gonna be unbelievable. Who's next? I think the next character is, as you might realize pretty quickly, A tier, high tier is really big in this version. This is a balanced version outside of the top 1 contenders, in my opinion. However, I think that just because a game is technically balanced, you can win with any character, doesn't mean that it feels fun to play. And this version is definitely a version of the game that does not feel really fun to play, especially at competitive level, because anyone can win, not just any character, but any player. I think I would play as Faust. I think Faust is really underrated by a lot of people because the way people's brains work, and you probably noticed this for a long time, is people rate the character based on how good they were when they last played the game. And a ton of people don't actively play the game or don't play it enough to realize that Faust is no longer 1.0 Faust, like the worst or second worst character when the game came out, like all these years ago. He's been getting steady buffs every single patch. He's had multiple levels of multiple top level representatives like Nage, Leo, RF, and Apology Man. He was one of the only characters that had 2 features at the finals, which was this patch. Although Slayer and Abba weren't out. And yeah, I think, funnily enough, I actually think he does pretty well. There's a lot of top tiers. Like, Soul might slight lose to him or go even. I don't think Leo's super free, although Leo probably wins that slightly. Goldlewis, Nago, they probably win versus him due to sheer, like, numbers. Fuck you. But it's not to the level of, like, oh, this is unwinnable. Like, oh, you have nowhere you win. Like, Faust actually has better neutral versus them. He has good things for his white wall assault. He has good things for his little character archetype. It's just not enough because of pure risk reward, pure bigger number. Go brr. But he does a lot of things well. He's super ignorant shit now. Like, his command grab has always been broken, but now he has way more ways to set it up because of his blue wall assault. Teleport RC is still one of the absolute best fucking, like, neutral skips of all time. maybe the best still, and you have meter more often now, so that's a really big plus. Honestly, biggest issue with him is just like kind of low life and not great damage. All right, moving on. We got the next one. I think this is probably where I put Chipp. We kind of went through a lot of Chipp's issues earlier, but basically the playstyle that Chipp had is that you're supposed to play really fucking safe by standing on the other side of the screen and then dashing in at random intervals. And then when they dash in, the only thing the opponent can respond to is with K buttons and with 6Ps and fast shit. If you do slow shit and he's still standing over there, then he is a really easy time to whiff punish you. However, in this patch, you can just neutral skip. If he's standing over there and you're over here, you're like, bet he's in my range. And that really comes into question now. In general, he just dies too easily. Like too many characters, too strong offense. And he's probably the biggest loser out of the wall assault nerfs. Yes, some other characters, technically also used it a lot, but the way Chipp used it is to break from any 2K hit and to then do a burst safely. And he doing that now is pretty bad with Chipp, because he does so little damage when he does it, and usually they can burst by the end of it. And a lot of the time, the burst will knock you into the corner as Chipp. He's one of the worst characters at baiting burst as well in the entire cast, and that is a really, 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 really big issue in a version of the game where you get infinite amount of bursts. They nerfed his air mobility again. Like, he's not actually one of the best air characters, like characters to be in the air with, despite that being his whole fucking point. Yeah, I really dislike what they've done with Chipp. I used to main this character like 2 years ago, but they've just made him like super boring, super simple, and just nerfed most interesting things about him. Most of the things that let him play a different play style than everyone else. Okay. Next up, we got Next up, I think there's a couple characters that are really close. I would say the characters that are close are like, it's hard to say who's the best. I'd say the characters that are close is like Anji, Bridget, Chaos, Jacko. No, not Jacko, actually. Yeah, I would say these four. Chaos, Bridget, Anji, and Millia. Now, some of you guys might instantly go, what? But there's like this many Chaos players, and there's like almost no Bridget, Millia, or Anji players. Yeah, fucking exactly. No one picked up Chaos this patch. The people that are playing Chaos this patch were already doing well with Chaos last patch because they picked him up when they were top tier. He has not been nerfed enough to be actually, bad or actually, unusable or even worth dropping, especially because we didn't know when a patch was coming. If I knew the patch was going to be 7 months, I would have dropped him. But we always thought the patch would come like after 3 months because they fucking said they would patch the game more often. But like these characters like Anji, Millia, and Bridget, I also don't think they're strong enough to be like, oh, you should pick them up if you weren't already playing them. So I understand why like Noon is the only really good place in Millia. There's a couple. Noon is the only like super top level Bridget. There has been a bunch of other Bridgets though. I played her actually a lot this patch, and I actually think Bridget is like a couple system mechanics and like 1 or 2 buffs away from being a top, like super obvious top tier. So if they, for some reason, think she's one of the worst characters and they buff her, I'm in there, dog. I'm in there. I think I would play as Millia here. Millia, new move is good, but it doesn't change her biggest thing, which is that Millia kind of has to throw herself at you. And throwing yourself at someone just carrying inherent risk when all the top tiers are heavy players or DP characters or high health characters. And I think in general, her low life and whatever defense is just like a big issue when you don't have a controlling playstyle, such as like, Bridget, Happy Chaos, even Chipp has a bit more of a controlling playstyle, but I think Faust honestly does like plays controlling better. His issue is more in offense. I could be wrong about this though. I could be wrong about a lot of these characters because there's just not enough good players. And I know that sucks, and I know that your average YouTube commenter going off in the chat right now is just saying character who is popular at high level, good, character who rare at low top level, bad. But that's just not how the world works. People are going to be playing characters that have been good for a long time. Ram, Chaos, Leo, Soul, Nago, etc. When a character goes from being really rare at top level and then buffed so hard that they suddenly start appearing, that is honestly a sign of a really over buffed character, which we'll get to, rather than, oh, this character is finally viable or finally among the best. It usually means that they're good in a way where the player base could not do well before, but now can. And Strive has not been unbalanced enough to where if you were not doing well in the previous patch, that wasn't because of the character. Like, dog, you've had like 2 years and you didn't make a top 8, and now you think that like, oh, it's the character holding you back. Like, give me a fucking break, right? But yeah, unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of representation with a lot of these characters, and that makes sense. Anji was bad when the game came out, so not everyone's gonna be playing Anji. Bridget, was not strong, and I think one of the most interesting things is that Sin is maybe the best example in all of this. Why Sin? Well, Sin is considered top tier by everyone across the globe. However, he is still incredibly rare to see. You only really have Parashu, who isn't that consistent of a placer, except he did get top 8 at Combo Breaker, but that's like that was his biggest, by far best performance yet, not really the norm. And then you have Shurara playing Sin as a secondary, and then just other people's secondaries. And that is just because when Sin came out, Sin was shit. And now that he's good, yeah, he's good. But like, if I was already a Soul main, I'm not switching to Sin unless they heavily nerf those characters. Spoilers: all the DPRC characters outside of Chipp and Bridget are incredible, right? So, yeah, you might say, oh, but Anji doesn't do that well. Well, that's not because of fucking character. That's because they suck ass compared to the best players. And yes, there are really good players, such as Jiro, such as Adventure, but like on average, you feel me? All right. That said, I'm gonna place Bridget here. I actually think my thought process is that I think Bridget is maybe slightly better than Chaos, but even though I had all the spiel about like, oh, we don't know, oh, Chaos is overrepresented because we have good players. While that is true, I do think you should still value what people can actually do in tournament, and I do think Chaos has proven a bit more, and he has enough players to show that yes, he should get the edge in a tier list in reality versus Bridget. Now, that is probably because there's not enough Bridget players, and because, like, in my opinion, that is because of there's not enough Bridget players and there's not enough tech developed. But I honestly think it's really close. You know what? Fuck it. I'll place Bridget over. I just convinced myself with that argument. It's like, yeah, but this is not other people's tier list. I play this character. I study Noon a lot. Like, I help him out with shit. I think Bridget's better. I think she has amazing defense. I think she has DPRC, super broken neutral skip. She allows you to control neutral better than most characters because she can control neutral, and like hitting her usually means that you will get a really shitty hit on her. And even if you do get a knockdown, she still has DP, she still has 5 from 2K, she has a broken backdash. But still, like, you know, on top of that, her offense is just so fucking solid now. Her, if you get hit by 2K 2D or like a super wall break or a throw, you're just eating like 50-50 after 50-50. I think she does relatively well into like Goldlewis, Nago, that type of like big bodies. Anji, for example, Asuka. But she struggles a bit more with such characters such as like Kai, Sin, Ram, Leo. Still, though, really fucking good character in my opinion. Underutilized. As I said, I will probably be on Bridget if they buff her. And then I think the last high tier character, yes, it's a fucking big S tier, is Anji. Anji is super fucking strong. The biggest robber in the game, maybe of all, but just lacks a little bit in consistency. We need to see a little bit more for me to see it, but could easily be an S minus. Easily. Just one of the weakest player bases outside of, you know, a few outliers, and I think it's really hard to know where to place him because of that. So he's kind of a question mark. All right. So next up, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 characters left. And we'll start by putting Jacko up here. Jacko is super underrepresented in the West, but we do have Nitro. We have Adventure sometimes. And then mainly, though, we're going to be talking about Japan because Japan is the people where this character, they all consider her like top 5, top like clear S tier. And after going there and, you know, Jacko beating players such as Jonathan Tene, Yumi Show, I can start to see why for sure. This character is super fucking slept on. She has one of the absolute best spreads of characters above her, with the exception of Asuka. And like, she does fine into everyone above. I think Ramen may probably beat her, but like outside of that, like she's fucking great versus all these characters. She has one of the best answers to White Wild Assault because she can dash 2K it, she can defend command it. Her offense is super busted. Like she does like 12 strike throws, you know, in a row, and then you blocked all of it. Well, I have 50 meter here. Hold a fucking super where you watch a cutscene where they just beat you up for 30 fucking seconds. Yeah, crazy stuff. I think super underrated. A lot of Western Jacko players play her like in the wrong way, in my opinion. I think you're supposed to play her in a zoning way that just like once you get a hit, you keep it going and then you go back to zoning. But a lot of Western Jackos just brain rot and like run full screen into 2D, and because you can win that way, they think that's the best way. Yeah, just like incredible character, super slept on. Yeah. Okay, next up we have Asuka. I think there's a debate to be had here. And when I rank characters, I do not rank them in the Fantasyland version where everyone has played against Asuka for 3 years, but Asuka players have not gotten any better. But like everyone has like a shit ton of tech versus Asuka and knows the matchup perfectly. But somehow Asuka players are not also like fucking juiced to the tits with like insane 500 APM per second. Maybe that version of Asuka is mid tier. Maybe he's fucking bad, like some of the Asuka players say he is. But in real life, he is fucking amazing because he has perhaps the biggest fucking snowball in the game, because bursting against him is incredibly hard because he can burst bait on everything. And when you burst, his mana like buff spells don't disappear, auto draw does not disappear, staffs don't disappear. He can wake up super and just like cover the entire screen and be plus like 40. Yeah, just an absurdly hard matchup knowledge check. If you don't know how to fight Asuka, it does not fucking matter how good he is in theory. He wins the matchup. Unless maybe you play like Nago, Goldlewis, Sin, where like it's relatively easy to learn the matchup just because you have big buttons. That is not every character. Not every character gets to ignore cubes by hitting a big button. And the thing is, if the Asuka player does know that you're going to hit this button, he can usually RPS with you. Maybe on a theoretical level where everyone knows every spell perfectly, every RPS, and can do this as quickly as the Asuka player can like draw cards and like play around it. Maybe the RPS is not amazing. In real life, Asuka players are always going to be better at reading cards. They're always going to be better at understanding like super niche situations because they play every single match with an RNG deck, and your opponent only once out of every 30 times plays against an Asuka, and then even more rarely plays against an Asuka good enough to really show how broken the character is at top level, because playing against the bad Asuka doesn't even compare and or even really teach you the matchup well. And I think in practice, that's just way, 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 way too big of a deal. Also, some of the best meter spends in the game. Also, some of the best like highest health. Some characters can nuke his health more. Some characters can't. Also, the character with the most people in Arc Revo, I think, probably Zondo and Gob are both qualifying, both on Asuka. Despite being like a pretty rare character. Okay. Next up, we have a bunch of other characters that are still fucking amazing, but I don't consider top 1 contenders. Who are they? Well, we have Ramblethal. I think Ramblethal is super fucking busted, has a shit ton of really good matchups. Just honestly happens to suffer a little bit more than the rest of these remaining characters from the risk reward and like the burst system. Is one of the best Wild Assault users and is amazing versus burst, but lower health does mean she gets robbed. And again, she wants to be over here when you're over there. And characters that can gap close this by spending meter or Wild Assault do really benefit from fighting her. All right, next up we have Sin. A lot of people do rate Sin higher. I completely open to Sin being higher, honestly. I don't think it's a big deal or important at all whether or not you consider Sin better. We all just kind of like guess on him because the player base is so weak and so small that it's just really hard to judge. Yeah. I actually think he's worse than his father, Kai. Mainly because he has less tech and less things to push, but most importantly because his kit, while super strong and like incredible in every category, he has no weakness. Has one weakness. How does that make sense? Well, his issue is that despite him being rare, he doesn't have a lot of things that like absolutely fuck you for not knowing the matchup. You can kind of play normal-ish versus Sin, both on defense and neutral. Is his DP bigger? Sure. Is his back just fucking busted as shit? Yes. Is his buttons amazing? Yes. But you can still understand how to play against him while not having almost any experience, which I think removes a lot of this like matchup knowledge check that Jacko, Asuka, HC, Faust, etc. can do. Also doesn't have as high of a health as the character above him. Next up, we have Kai. Kai is honestly a character with a shit ton more tech than the best Kais display. Like Danny and Sherrera are probably the best Kais, and my god, do they not do all the things they should. They play in a very simple way, very player read focused, very like easy, consistent. However, when you play in that way, when you play just to make solid, good reads and not fuck up, like it or not, you do make your character look worse than it actually should look like, because you're so focused on making minimal mistakes and just doing the safe shit, not doing any hard combos, not doing any like good Oki, just so you can play it more safely. But that does give, that just naturally has a, effect on most people that, oh, we will see this character as weaker because you're just doing the easy shit. Especially Kai has like a pretty big gap between like the easy shit and like the hard shit. Not like an insane gap or anything, but like more than say Leo, Soul, which have like, regardless of their curves, Leo being super fucking easy, kind of the entire way, right? Soul has like a slightly higher bar, but like has, you know, a very leaning curve. It's like anything hard you do with Soul, you get immediately rewarded for by a very high amount. Kai has like very easy, like the among the easiest characters in the game, and then like decently hard for the hard shit. Still not even close to the hard shit of like actual hard characters. They need to do that all the time, but a bit higher up than what people probably go in against Kai to learn. Like you don't really pick Kai to do the hard shit, but I also think that makes it that makes him look worse than he actually is. All right, so now we have 5 characters left, and all these characters are absolutely fucking busted, and all of them could be contender for number 1. My current pick for last in this completely arbitrarily ranked top 1 contender tier, which is the best characters, is Soul. Does this mean Soul is not completely busted? No. Soul is still, to this day, heavily downplayed by the West. I don't know why. Soul was famously stated to have no winning matchups in a patch where he was like the 5th best character. He is super represented over in Asia, but of course, because this is an English-speaking channel and because a lot of Americans play Strive, people just think that like, oh, America, the entire world. Unfortunately, this is not true. Like, yes, Yumisha is a fucking amazing Soul. Yes, Yumisha could do on any other character. But there's a lot of really fucking good Souls in Japan. And for example, when Yumisha went to Japan, she lost to Tsumo, right? They're really fucking good both with Soul and against Soul. Like, she was the 3rd, maybe 3rd or 4th, I think 3rd highest placing Soul at that tournament, outplaced by Tatsuma and Mochi. And I honestly trust Japan's opinion of Soul better than anyone else but myself in the West, because I am one of the few players that actually go to Japan and Asia often enough. Like, I've been to Japan, I've been to Korea multiple times, and I make sure to try to practice with all the Asian players and ask them. Like, I've asked all the top players that I can, what do you think? Why do you think this? You know, it's usually like broken English or me speaking broken Japanese, but I think I understand a bit more about what they think than a lot of other people. And I think this character is completely fucking busted. The only reason why I put him at the bottom is because he is harder to play than the other characters. Now, is he actually that hard? No, because you don't need to do the hard shit. You can do the hard shit, but the easy shit goes really, really, really fucking far too. It is only because you can fuck up and because I currently think he does badly against some of the other top tiers, like here, that I think he's there. But honestly, I could just be fucking gaslit by all the Western Soul players that still claim that he's like shit versus Goldlewis, shit versus Nago, etc. Like, maybe he is, but like we don't really know. So, yeah. Anyway, next up is Leo Whitefang. Leo is also incredibly broken, almost the same power level as Soul, but has a bit better matchup knowledge checks. If you don't know how to defend against back turn, you're just fucked. Is an even better user of Wild Assault. Like, before, Leo would tickle you when he hit you with back turn, unless you were in the corner, and now he wall breaks you from anywhere. Incredibly good in his burst. Amazing neutral for whatever the fuck reason, while also having some of the best defense. His fireball buffs were insane. Yeah, if I had more time, I probably would have made Leo at this point, because he is the character that I've put in the most time with recently outside of Happy Chaos. And honestly, it straight up came down to he is fucking godlike. However, because Tempest exists, I don't want to pick up a character where everyone already is practicing like crazy for Leo. It just doesn't make sense when I don't want to play Leo if he is not the best, which hopefully the system mechanic changes will make it so that he's no longer a top 1 contender. Because character this easy, this flawless should not be top 1. Next up we have Nago Ryuki. Why is Nago not higher? He honestly could be. It's really hard to say. I think Nago has more mashup issues than some of the other characters. Like, I think if you start from the bottom here, I think Nago is more likely to be robbed by Testament, Axel, Bedman, Faust, Pot, honestly, like Chaos, Bridget, Anji, than the remaining two. Part of that is honestly just because things can go wrong. His neutral is godlike. He has White Wild Assault. He has ridiculous offense. It's just that things can go wrong in this patch, right? Because he doesn't have a regular dash. He does take a lot of damage when he's high blood. High damage being regular, but still completely broken. Super simple character. Straight up an accessibility feature. Like, the entire top 5 outside of Soul is literally like, if you played another Crab's Treasure, a Souls-like, where you can turn on the accessibility feature where he just gets a gun, like he just picks up a fucking gun and just one-shots the boss. Like, that is what this Strive patch is. If you want to play the best, easiest characters, you just get the fucking gun in form of Goldlewis Wild Assault, and you can erase years of work with a fucking click. Does that give you satisfaction? Probably not, but accessibility features, they just exist. Next up we have Goldlewis. Goldlewis is the biggest robbery character, to the point I saw another top player say that every Goldlewis win is a Goldlewis upset. So he's is he the best character at upsetting people when you're worse? Or is he just that fucking broken? Like, no one really knows. No one really knows why. Okay. I do know. We know Goldlewis is fucked up. Maybe he doesn't have the absolute best result. Maybe the players just aren't good enough. They don't put in the work. The fact that a player base that barely achieved anything, and I'm not talking about like the people that did achieve things such as Darkrai, Gobo, the fact that there's like 15 Goldlewis players that can now beat any top player, and like we've seen everyone lose to random Goldlewis players, that's a fucking sin, bro. They're gonna disappear, half of them probably, at least. We'll never hear the name of, once they just slightly nerf this character and make him slightly less robbable. But the problem is that he's also fucking insanely safe and solid on almost everything he does in terms of offense, neutral, defense. The only problem is that he's a big character. That it's it. And that he doesn't have Ramito's DP. Like, I'm sorry, but there's never been a character that carries bad players to high-level players. Not top-level, but high-level players. Better than Goldlewis in this current patch. They literally say if you can do his specials, which takes like a day to do, then you too can beat an Evo champion. Yeah, it's just absolute embarrassment how they designed. Are there good players that play Goldlewis? Probably. The problem is I cannot tell them apart. I have never met another top player that can actually tell them apart, because that is how low skill expression this character is. Now, I think this has also been the downfall of Goldlewis players, and I think this is a pretty common occurrence, actually. Everyone's prone to bias. I'm prone to bias, and I'll happily state that. So I am biased at this, but I do think it is a pretty understandable thing that, here's the theory. The theory is that characters that are really fucking easy to play do worse than they should, like how good they are tier wise. Why? Because they are so fucking easy. They are so ignorant that they don't incentivize you to grind. I've talked to so many Goldlewis players. Yes, there are some that are exceptions, but the average Goldlewis player this patch don't feel motivated to grind because I can just wipe Wild Assault. I can just do this. He's so stupid. Like, they don't like doing Wild Assault either, or they're not having that much fun, and so they're not enjoying the game. Are there some that do? Sure, but that's like 5% that were just born with like either the heavy gene, unga bunga gene, but still like incredibly hardworking, or just like, yeah, maybe they don't understand how brain dead their shit is, right? Meanwhile, I think that if you play a really hard character or a character that really rewards work, such as Asuka, Soul, Chaos, Zato, in other games like Fox, for example, I think despite them not being like sometimes these characters are the best. Like there's a really fucking strong archetype. But I think even when they are not the best, I think playing these characters generally make you want to play the game more. And yes, despite all my sayings, skill is still number one, right? Skill and putting time into the game, being clutch, not choking, not feeling too anxious, not being too nervous, still matters way fucking more in the long run than playing a broken character, right? And that is something people refuse to accept because that's the thing, right? Goldlewis players are not the best players, so they don't get the best results. But that is not because of their character, right? The fact that we have so many players that we never knew the name of, and now we have to respect as it could go either fucking way, man. And this has happened several times with me. Like players I've never heard of going into, holy shit, I won with one hit. Despite them like not even knowing the matchup. It's so common, man. Oh my god, dude. You know, if there was one or two, maybe I would accept like, oh, I'm just biased against heavies. But there's so many, and it happens all the time. All the time. In every region. Every region, all the top players hate this character. It's insanity. And yeah, let's hope I'm wrong. Let's hope all these Goldlewis players go on to win multiple Evo champions, top 8 placements, in future patches and future games. And despite the fact that I can't name a Goldlewis players that have top 8'd with another character or in another game, I'm sure that this character is actually mid tier, and I'm just being salty. Gobu has done well in other characters, but he no longer plays Goldlewis. Let's hope this character gets nuked into the ground. Okay, next up we have Mei. Fuck this character even more, man. Holy shit, what a fucking disgusting character. Goddamn, man. Don't let the fact that there's only one top level Mei, aka Slash, distract you from the fact that this character is a complete fucking joke and counters the meta unbelievably well. Doesn't give a shit about DPRC because she has the best command grab and safe jumps for fucking everything. Doesn't give a shit about neutral skips because she neutral skips better than you. Doesn't give a shit about the burst changes being full screen because she's burst safe even when she's in your face. Wild Assault nerf? Oh, you can't burst safely break the wall? No, she can. Maybe you have a 50-50 chance to burst, but like you've already taken 30% by the time you get to burst, or even risk your entire round for burst. Incredible mix-ups. Why the fuck does she have a 4-way mix-up with command grab from like half her knockdowns? What the fuck? Yeah. I could be wrong. We don't have enough people. It is naturally hard, and Slash is an incredible player. Again, as I said, skill is number one. Even if Slash played a character 10 tiers above, he would not be doing as well as he does because of purely the character. However, I have to look and I have to make an educated guess on how good I think the character is. And I can't think of a character outside of Nago that even has an argument to beating Mei. And that's fucked up to say. Because even Goldlewis, even Nago, Leo, Soul, they all have matchups they lose. Getting to the Shia's 4-way mix-up from everything is kind of hard. Yeah, man, doing 2K2D into a Dolphin is so hard. Up Dolphin into Dolphin is so hard. Listen, just because Mei has played the game before you in 2.5, raised your son, sent them off to college, ridden your will for you, guided you, walked into heaven past God's security because you play Mei and somehow he missed you, snuck into you by herself when she had previous patch Dolphin, does not mean that because she has to do a basic fucking Oki setup that is currently gonna make her hard to play. She's still one of the easiest characters in the game. Stop downplaying Happy Chaos, at least put in top 10. I don't think he is. I think if you ask most players, he's out here. What placement is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12, 13. I think 13 is like above where a lot of characters have him. He's high tier. He's great. Like, okay, he's not great. He's fine. I just think the game is really balanced. And I think that if you put a lot of the players that play Happy Chaos and we mained Chipp from the very start, or we mained Millia from the very start, we would have about the same results. How dare you say 13 instead of 10? How dare you? I am completely normal. Can I get your opinion on Mei versus Abba? I heard Mei players say Abba wins. Yeah, Mei players are fucking dumb if they say that, bro. Even when Mei gets hit and Abba is in jealousy rage for a small moment, Mei has comparable normals and comparable neutral skips to a temporary version of Abba that does not have orange wall assault, but has the worst one, blue wall assault. If I played Soul from the start, I'd be putting up world numbers, imagine numbers. You did play Soul from the start, Aaron. You were part of the people that said he was dog shit when he was top tier. Don't. I know you. I know you played Soul in season 1. Why'd you swap, bro? Could have fucking played Soul. Could have had a great time. Leffen, do I enjoy this game? No. This is one of the worst patches I've ever had to play. Well, do I enjoy this game? Yes. Do I enjoy competing in it? No. So why do you play it so often? Well, because I fucking have to. It's my goddamn job, bro. Like, I still play video games. I still make money talking shit with dumbasses like you. No, but I still have a really, good job. I still love competing. I still love traveling and seeing my friends, except when I end up in Dayton, Ohio. But yeah, I mean, it's still a game, and I hope it gets better. If the game does not get better in 2 weeks or in the next patch, then I won't play it. Simple as that, right? It's not life or death, but am I going to act as if the balancing of this game is not a complete embarrassment and that I will think 3 times harder before I ever start maining an Arxis game? Hell yeah. Do I regret playing this game instead of Melee this year? Hell yeah, bro. This game is ass this year. And we're not getting a fucking proper patch until November. Like, what the fuck? But I don't hate it. It's just shit. But, like, only for competitors. Like, it's still a good casual game. And it could be great. It's like 2 good patches away from being a great, like, an all-timer, in my opinion. Have you ever considered making a fighting game health tier list? Like, healthiest competitive scene? It's Street Fighter, Tekken, Big Gap, Melee, Gap, Strive. Because there's, like, no competitive player that is, like, making really good money from Strive in terms of, like, sponsorship and stuff like that. You know, so people like me are sponsored, but I'm like half sponsored for Strive. You know, more as a human being than purely from Strive. Most people that are sponsored for Strive are because hopefully you'll play 2HKO. Strive has good numbers though, good like a lot of people playing it, but I would still put it below Melee just because Melee has shown more endurance. Like it will last longer, and there's more people making a living out of Melee. And just generally has more local like people in terms of local attendance, stuff like that. Don't you think Slayer is as good as the S- tiers? If I did, I'd put him there, wouldn't I? Slayer peaks in top 1, but his average is in A. What's the reason for it? Well, subscribe to my fucking YouTube channel. You came in an hour and a half too late. What other games are alive? MK1 is probably after that. This is a teacher response to a student. Ain't that the relationship we have? What about Rivals? Rivals is not out yet. Granblue? Granblue does not have a good scene. Probably. Oh, Smash Ultimate. Smash Ultimate, I would say. I just consider Smashing as a whole generally, but it's somewhere around Melee. I don't keep in touch enough to where I would know. I don't think it's doing too well because people fucking hate playing that game because of Sonic and Steve, but I wouldn't say it's doing as bad as MK1. But it's doing really well in like Japan, for example. Dragon Ball FighterZ who? Oh, you mean the other ArcSys made game that like they ruined over a period of time with horrible patches, although it technically did at Namco, but yeah. Oh. Well, a lot of people that enter Granblue don't even play the game. I think Nitro got top 8 at CEO and he doesn't own the game. I think Lucian also did that. Or maybe it was Lucian and not Nitro. But yeah, a lot of people don't play the game, but still like just play it because it's super easy. Soul does not seem that good. Do you have eyes, motherfucker? This is like the lowest fucking placement you could possibly put Soul. Top 5 is all very close, yeah. We won't know who the best of these characters are. It would take years. Or at least a year. And we do not have that right now. The top 5 is diabolical. Yeah, it's a horrible meta. It is. The meta is, it's rough. Anyway, guys, subscribe to the YouTube. Hit your Twitch Prime. Hope you like the content. We're going to be doing 2XKO Marathon once that alpha comes out in early August. Like 24 streaming. 24-hour streaming. Eva's coming up, so I'm practicing really hard. That's the base shit. Let me go to the bathroom and we'll check if someone's still in Celestial. Anything you can tell us on that balance team? It exists. they don't listen to top players much because there's no like way to like talk to them, which I hope will be the last time. Like I hope this is the last time I ever play a game where I put more hours playing this game than anyone else in the fucking world. Like not just me, but like the top players do, right? And yet they won't ask us for our opinion on what they should change. Like it's not that they're talking to other top players, it's just not talking to enough like any of the people that put in the most time into the game. Would that, is there a chance that we'd be biased? Sure. Is that still better than fucking relying on someone who's biased but bad at the game? Because everyone is biased, right? Like I'd rather have plus 5,000 hours but also plus 10% bias versus plus like minus 10 bias minus 5,000 hours, right? Who are they talking to then? From what I can gather, only like people that don't compete because they're so scared of bias. They're probably watching this right now. I'm sure there's someone. Hello, Arxis. I'm sure there's someone in Arxis that either watches this now or on YouTube. But I just don't think they want to tell people. And they don't want to like actually take hard constructive feedback. They really said more frequent upset than when radio silent. Yep. Listen, I understand the game developing is hard, right? And I understand that delays happen. But why the fuck can't you just tell us that? Like say after RQ, we're sorry, our balance patch got delayed. This is the expected time. Don't come to us 7 months later to be like, oh, there's a patch in 2 weeks. It's not a big one. Yeah, they're also really bad at admitting fault. Exactly. Like they can't just revert changes that were obviously stupid. This Zato changes obviously should have been reverted like 2 weeks later. They're like, oh shit, that's too much. Right. A lot of other game devs these days are willing to do that, and it's a big difference. Oh, I can't wait to play 2xKO, man. I'm probably, for some reason, they didn't have any qualifiers to Sweden or like any beta access for Sweden, but I'm going to be flying to UK or America and just play all day. It's like 11 days of beta. It'll be fun, I'm sure.